My parents canceled my 18th birthday party to avoid upsetting my spoiled sister, so I moved out without warning, and what happened next left them begging at my door. Subscribe to the channel and like the video to see more stories like this. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching my mother frantically dial numbers on her phone while my father paced back and forth, his face pale with panic. The birthday cake I had baked myself sat untouched on the counter, 18 candles still in their package beside it. My sister Madison lounged on the living room couch, scrolling through her phone with a satisfied smirk that made my stomach turn. "Emma, sweetheart," Mom said, her voice tight with forced cheerfulness as she ended yet another call. "We need to talk about tonight." I already knew what was coming. I had heard Madison's meltdown through the bedroom walls the night before, screaming about how my birthday party would ruin her weekend plans, how she could not possibly be expected to share attention with me, how Mom and Dad always prioritized me over her needs. The irony of that last accusation would have been funny if it were not so devastatingly painful. "We're going to have to postpone your party," Dad said, not quite meeting my eyes. "Just for a week or two. Madison is going through a really difficult time right now with her college applications, and having a big celebration tonight would just be too much stress for her." Madison was 20 years old. Her college applications had been submitted 4 months ago, but pointing out these facts would be useless, as I had learned over the years of watching my parents bend themselves into pretzels to accommodate my spoiled sister's every whim. "It's my 18th birthday," I said quietly. "Not just any birthday, my 18th. "We know that, honey," Mom interjected quickly, "and we'll make it special, I promise. Just not today. Madison really needs us right now." What Madison needed was a reality check, but that was never going to happen. Not in this house, where she had been treated like a fragile princess since the day she was born. I was the older sister, the responsible one, the one who was supposed to understand and be flexible. Madison was the baby, the sensitive one, the one who required constant protection from anything that might upset her delicate emotional balance. I looked at the cake again, chocolate with vanilla frosting, decorated with the care of someone who knew no one else would bother. I had bought the ingredients with money from my part-time job at the bookstore. I had invited 12 friends, all of whom were probably getting ready right now, excited to celebrate with me. My best friend Jasmine had even bought a new dress for the occasion. "What about my friends?" I asked. "They're expecting a party." "You can text them," Madison said from the couch, not even bothering to look up from her phone. "Tell them you got food poisoning or something. It's not that big of a deal, Emma. Birthdays happen every year, but 18th birthdays do not happen every year. They happen once, and mine was being canceled because my spoiled sister could not stand anyone else receiving attention for a single evening." I walked upstairs to my bedroom, closed the door, and sat on my bed. My phone buzzed with messages from friends asking what time to arrive. I stared at the texts, my hands shaking with a mixture of rage and humiliation. This was not the first time my needs had been sacrificed for Madison's comfort. It was simply the most significant, the final drop in an already overflowing bucket. My childhood had been a series of postponements, cancellations, and disappointments, all in service of keeping Madison happy. My middle school graduation dinner had been cut short because Madison threw a tantrum about the restaurant. My 16th birthday party had been scaled down to a family dinner because Madison was upset about a breakup. Every achievement I earned was met with lukewarm acknowledgement, while Madison's mediocre efforts received lavish praise and celebration. I opened my laptop and began searching for studio apartments within my budget. My bookstore job paid enough to cover rent in a modest place if I was careful with expenses. I had been saving money for college, but suddenly the idea of spending one more day in this house felt unbearable. My 18th birthday was supposed to mark my transition to adulthood. If my parents would not recognize that milestone, I would claim it myself. 2 hours later, I had filled out 3 rental applications and scheduled viewings for the next day. I texted my friends, apologizing for the canceled party and promising to explain later. Then I began packing. Not everything, just enough clothes and personal items to get by for a few weeks. I would come back for the rest when my parents were not home. The family drama that was about to unfold would change everything, though I did not fully realize it yet. I was simply tired of being the golden child's shadow, tired of my feelings being dismissed, tired of being told that my 18th birthday party was less important than Madison's mood. What my parents did not know was that I had been contributing to household expenses for the past 6 months, ever since Dad's hours at work had been cut. The $400 I quietly deposited into their account each month had kept the electricity on and food on the table. They assumed the money came from Dad's overtime, which he had stopped working months ago, but was too proud to admit. That night, I lay in bed listening to Madison laugh downstairs as Mom and Dad ordered her favorite takeout to cheer her up. My birthday cake remained untouched in the kitchen. No one had even bothered to light the candles. Tomorrow was Saturday, the day I was supposed to wake up to birthday wishes and celebration. Instead, I would wake up at dawn, load my car with the essentials, and drive away from the only home I had ever known. I did not plan to tell them I was leaving. They would find out eventually when they realized my bedroom was half empty and I was not answering their calls. Maybe then they would understand that their spoiled sister's tantrums had finally cost them more than they were willing to lose. Or maybe they would simply blame me for being dramatic, for not understanding how difficult things were for Madison. Either way, I would be gone. My phone buzzed with a message from Jasmine. "Hey, are you okay? You seemed weird in your text." I typed back, "I will be, I promise. Can I crash at your place tomorrow night?" Her response response came immediately. Of course, always. What's going on? I'll explain when I see you, I wrote. But I'm moving out, like, permanently. The 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally. Oh my god. Yes, come over. We'll figure this out together. And Emma, happy birthday. I'm sorry your family sucks. I smiled through the tears that were finally falling. At least someone remembered it was my birthday. At least someone cared enough to acknowledge that this day mattered. I fell asleep that night with my packed bags hidden in my closet, my rental application saved on my laptop, and a strange sense of peace settling over me. The golden child could have her throne. I was done fighting for scraps of attention in my own family. What I did not know was that my departure would trigger a chain reaction that would expose truths my parents had been desperately hiding, truths about money and favoritism, and the real reason they could not afford to upset Madison. But I would learn all of that soon enough, when the carefully constructed facade of our perfect family began to crumble, revealing the rot underneath. I woke at 5:30 in the morning, before anyone else stirred. The house was silent, except for the soft hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I dressed quickly in jeans and a sweater, then began moving my packed bags to my car as quietly as possible. 3 trips from my second-floor bedroom to the driveway, my heart pounding with each creak of the stairs. By 6:15, my Honda Civic was loaded with everything I considered essential. Before leaving, I went back inside one last time. The birthday cake still sat on the kitchen counter, looking sad and forgotten in the early morning light. I opened the fridge and saw the leftovers from Madison's celebration dinner, the expensive Thai food Mom and Dad had ordered to comfort her. Next to it sat a casserole I had made 3 days ago that had fed the family for 2 nights. No one had thanked me for it. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The automatic transfer I had set up 6 months ago was scheduled to deposit $400 into my parents' account that morning. I canceled it. Then I drafted a text message to my parents, but did not send it yet. I wanted to be far enough away that they could not immediately chase me down. The drive to Jasmine's apartment took 20 minutes. She lived in a small 2-bedroom place near the community college, sharing it with her older sister Maya. When I knocked on the door at 6:45, Jasmine opened it immediately, still in her pajamas, her dark curly hair pulled into a messy bun. "Oh, Emma," she said, pulling me into a hug before I could even speak. "Come in. Maya's making coffee." I dragged my bags inside and collapsed onto their worn but comfortable couch. Maya appeared from the kitchen, 2 mugs in hand. She was 24, worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and had always treated me with the kind of casual affection I wished I got from my own family. "So," Maya said, handing me a mug, "Jasmine told me your parents canceled your birthday party for your spoiled sister. Again, my 18th birthday party," I clarified, taking a sip of the hot coffee. "The one that happens once in a lifetime? That's messed up," Maya said flatly. "What are you going to do?" "I'm already doing it," I replied. "I'm out. I found 3 apartments to look at today. One of them is a studio about 15 minutes from the bookstore where I work. The rent is $650 a month, which I can afford if I pick up extra shifts." Jasmine sat beside me, her face troubled. "Emma, are you sure? I mean, I support you completely, but this is a huge decision. Maybe you should talk to them first." "Talk to them about what?" I asked, hearing the bitterness in my own voice. "About how they've prioritized Madison's feelings over mine for my entire life? About how they canceled the most important birthday party I'll ever have because she threw a tantrum? They made their choice, Jasmine. Now I'm making mine." Maya nodded approvingly. "Good for you. You can stay here as long as you need while you're apartment hunting." The couch pulls out into a bed. "It's not fancy, but it's yours." "Thank you," I said, feeling tears prick my eyes again. "I really appreciate it." At 8 o'clock, I finally sent the text message I had drafted earlier. It read, "I've moved out. Don't look for me. I need space to figure out my life without being Madison's backup plan. I'll contact you when I'm ready." Then I turned off my phone. The apartment viewings went better than expected. The studio I had seen online was perfect, small but clean, with large windows that let in natural light. The landlord, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, seemed to like me immediately. "You work at the bookstore on Main Street?" she asked as we stood in the empty studio. "I go there every week. You're always so helpful with recommendations." "Thank you," I said, surprised she recognized me. "I love working there. The apartment is yours if you want it," Mrs. Chen said. "First month and security deposit. You can move in next weekend." I did not hesitate. "I'll take it." By noon, I had signed a lease and paid the deposit with money from my college savings. It hurt to watch that balance drop, but the freedom felt worth it. I was officially independent, no longer living under my parents' roof or their rules or their endless accommodation of my spoiled sister's whims. When I turned my phone back on at 2 o'clock, I had 37 missed calls and 62 text messages. Most were from Mom and Dad, progressing from confused to worried to angry. A few were from Madison, all variations of, "Are you serious right now?" and "You're being so dramatic." There was also a voicemail from Dad. I almost deleted it without listening, but curiosity got the better of me. His voice sounded strained, almost panicked. "Emma, we need you to come home right now. There's been a problem with the electric bill. They're threatening to shut off our power. I thought I had paid it, but apparently the payment didn't go through. Can you help us out? Just this once? Please call me back." I stared at my phone, processing his words. The electric bill, the payment that did not go through, because I had canceled my automatic deposit that morning. The $400 I had been quietly contributing every month was not extra money they barely noticed. It was essential. They had been relying on it without even realizing where it came from. A bitter laugh escaped me. My parents had no idea I had been keeping their utilities running. They thought Dad's non-existent overtime was covering the shortfall in their budget. Now that I was gone, now that my money had stopped flowing into their account, reality was catching up to them. I did not call back. Instead, I spent the afternoon shopping for basics I would need for my new apartment. Sheets, towels, a few cheap dishes and utensils. Jasmine came with me, chattering excitedly about decorating ideas and making the space my own. Maya had given me some extra furniture she had in storage, a small kitchen table with 2 chairs and a floor lamp that still worked perfectly. By evening, I had a plan. I would work as many hours as possible at the bookstore. I would finish my last semester of high school, graduate in 3 months, and then reassess my college plans. Maybe community college for 2 years to save money, then transfer to a 4-year school. It would not be the path I had originally envisioned, but it would be mine, earned through my own work and determination. That night, sleeping on Jasmine and Maya's pull-out couch, I felt something I had not experienced in years. Peace. Real, genuine peace. No tension in my shoulders waiting for Madison's next meltdown. No walking on eggshells trying not to upset the family drama balance. No resentment building up every time my needs were dismissed as less important than the golden child's feelings. The next morning, I woke to find 43 new messages on my phone. I scrolled through them, my stomach nodding as I read. Mom, Emma, please come home. We can talk about this. We didn't realize how upset you were. Dad, the power company gave us until Monday to pay the bill or they're shutting off our electricity. Where is the money coming from? I thought my overtime covered it. Madison, seriously? You're going to let Mom and Dad suffer because of your little tantrum? Grow up. And then one from Mom that made me stop scrolling. Emma, I went into your room to get your laundry and saw your bank statements on your desk. Have you been giving us money? Why didn't you tell us? So they knew now. They had finally discovered that their supposedly self-sufficient household had been propped up by their daughter's bookstore paychecks. The daughter whose 18th birthday party they had canceled without a second thought. I typed a response, deleted it. Typed another one, deleted that too. Finally, I settled on something simple and direct. Yes, I've been contributing $400 a month for the past 6 months. You never asked where the extra money came from, so I never told you. Consider this my notice that I'm no longer able to help with household expenses. You'll need to adjust your budget accordingly. The response came within minutes. Dad calling, Mom calling, text messages pinging one after another. I silenced my phone and went to take a shower. When I emerged 20 minutes later, Jasmine was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. Okay, she said, not looking up. I've been doing some research. You're 18 now, which means you're legally an adult. They can't force you to come home, but they also can't force you to continue supporting them financially. You don't owe them anything, Emma. Not after what they've done. I know, I said, sitting down across from her, but part of me still feels guilty, like I'm abandoning them. They abandoned you first, Jasmine said bluntly. Every time they chose Madison over you, every time they dismissed your feelings, every time they canceled your plans to keep her happy. You've been the responsible one, the helpful one, the one who quietly kept their household running. And how did they repay you? By canceling your 18th birthday party because your spoiled sister couldn't handle one night not being about her. She was right, of course, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally were two different things. I had been conditioned my entire life to put Madison first, to be understanding, to be flexible. Breaking that pattern felt like ripping off my own skin. My phone rang again. This time it was not Mom or Dad. It was Mrs. Patterson, my manager at the bookstore. Emma, she said when I answered, I heard what happened. Your mother called here looking for you. My stomach dropped. What did you tell her? I told her I couldn't give out employee information, Mrs. Patterson replied, but I wanted to check in with you. Are you safe? Yes, I said, feeling grateful for her discretion. I'm staying with friends. I moved out. Good, she said, surprising me. I've been watching your family dynamics for a while now. Every time your mother comes in, she talks about Madison, Madison's achievements, Madison's problems, Madison's needs. She barely mentions you except to say you're the responsible one. That's not healthy, Emma. No, I agreed quietly. It's not. I'm increasing your hours, Mrs. Patterson said. 30 hours a week instead of 20, and giving you a raise. $1.50 more per hour. You're a hard worker, and you deserve it. Plus, I imagine you could use the extra income now. I felt tears welling up. Thank you. That means more than you know. After we hung up, I did the math. With my new hours and raise, I would make approximately $540 per week before taxes. About $1,900 per month after taxes. My rent was $650. That left me roughly $1,250 for food, utilities, transportation, and savings. It would be tight but manageable if I was careful. For the first time in 6 months, every dollar I earned would belong to me. Not to my parents' electric bill, not to covering the shortfall from Dad's reduced hours, not to subsidizing the household that treated me like an afterthought. Just me. That realization should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt terrifying. I was 18 years old, living on my own, responsible for every aspect of my life. No safety net, no backup plan, no family to fall back on if things went wrong. But I also had something I never had before. Freedom. The freedom to make my own choices, to prioritize my own needs, to build a life where I was not constantly sacrificing for a spoiled sister who would never appreciate it. My phone buzzed with one more message. This one from Madison. Mom and Dad are freaking out about money. This is your fault. If you had just sucked it up and let them postpone your stupid party, None of this would be happening. You're so selfish. I read it twice, then blocked her number. I was done being called selfish by the person who had never considered anyone's needs but her own. I was done being blamed for the consequences of choices I did not make. I was done being the family drama scapegoat. The golden child could finally stand on her own, and I was about to discover just how unstable that throne really was. The first week on my own passed in a blur of activity. I worked my new 30-hour schedule at the bookstore, attended my remaining high school classes, and spent every spare moment preparing for my move into the studio apartment. Jasmine and Maya helped me shop at thrift stores for furniture and kitchen supplies. We found a barely used futon for $75, a coffee maker for $10, and a set of mismatched dishes that cost less than $20 total. My parents continued calling and texting, but I kept my responses minimal. Yes, I was safe. No, I was not coming home. No, I would not be contributing to household expenses anymore. Each message from them carried an undertone of desperation that would have broken my heart a week ago. Now it just made me tired. On Thursday afternoon, 5 days after I moved out, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Emma Richardson? A professional female voice asked. Yes? This is Patricia Monroe from Harrison County Family Services. Your mother filed a report stating you're a runaway minor. I need to verify your status and living situation. My hands started shaking. I'm 18 years old. I turned 18 last Saturday. I'm not a minor, and I'm not a runaway. I moved out of my parents' house of my own free will. There was a pause, then the sound of papers shuffling. I see. Can you provide proof of your age and current address? I gave her my driver's license number and the address of my new apartment, where I would be moving in 2 days. Mrs. Chen had let me move the date up when she heard about my situation. Patricia Monroe asked several more questions about my employment, my income, and whether I felt safe. I answered honestly, explaining that I had left due to family drama and ongoing favoritism toward my younger sister. Your mother was quite insistent that you're in danger, Patricia said carefully. She seemed genuinely worried. My mother is worried about losing the $400 per month I was contributing to their household expenses, I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. She's worried that their spoiled lifestyle and catering to my sister's every whim just became unaffordable. Another pause. I see. Well, Ms. Richardson, you're legally an adult and free to live independently. I'll close this case and note that you're safe and living voluntarily on your own. If you need resources or support services, please don't hesitate to contact our office. After we hung up, I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. Emma, thank God. Are you coming home? You called family services on me? I asked, my voice cold. You tried to report me as a runaway? We're worried about you, Mom said, but her tone lacked conviction. You're only 18. You're not ready to live on your own. I was ready enough to financially support this family for 6 months, I said. I was ready enough to cook meals, do laundry, and take care of household tasks while you focused all your energy on Madison. But I wasn't ready enough to have my own birthday party without it being canceled for her convenience. Emma, that's not fair. You know what's not fair, Mom? Calling government agencies to try to force me back home, filing false reports, harassing my workplace. I'm done. I'm legally an adult, I have a job and an apartment, and I'm making it very clear right now that I want no contact with any of you for the foreseeable future. You can't just cut us off, Mom said, her voice rising. We're your family. Family doesn't cancel your 18th birthday party, I replied. Family doesn't prioritize one child's tantrums over another child's milestone. Family doesn't take your money for 6 months without acknowledgement or gratitude. You taught me what family isn't, Mom. Now I'm going to find out what real family looks like. I hung up before she could respond, then immediately blocked both my parents' numbers. Madison was already blocked. I kept my phone on only for work and friends. Anyone from my family would go straight to voicemail from now on. Saturday arrived, moving day. Jasmine, Maya, and 2 of Maya's nurse friends helped me transport everything to my new studio apartment. It took 3 trips in 2 cars, but by early afternoon, I was officially moved in. The space was small but bright, with hardwood floors and a tiny but functional kitchen. Mrs. Chen had even left a welcome basket with tea, cookies, and a small potted plant on the counter. This is really happening, I said, standing in the middle of my new home. I'm actually doing this. You're doing great, Maya said, arranging dishes in the cabinet. This is what independence looks like. It's scary, but it's yours. That night, after everyone left and I was alone in my apartment for the first time, I sat on my thrift store futon and looked around. The space was sparse, nothing like the comfortable bedroom I had grown up in, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every towel had been chosen and paid for by me. No one could take it away. No one could cancel it for someone else's benefit. My first month of independence was harder than I expected. Money was tight, even with my increased hours at the bookstore. I learned to cook cheap meals. Rice and beans became a staple, along with pasta and whatever vegetables were on sale. I walked to work when the weather permitted to save on gas. I studied at the public library instead of buying textbooks. Every dollar was accounted for, every expense carefully considered. But I was happy, genuinely finally, surprisingly happy. The constant tension that had lived in my shoulders for years gradually eased. I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Madison to have another meltdown that would somehow become my problem. I stopped monitoring my words and actions to avoid triggering family drama. I just lived quietly and simply in my small apartment with my part-time job and my growing sense of self. 3 weeks after I moved out, Jasmine showed up at my apartment with her laptop and an excited expression. "You have to see this," she said, opening Facebook. "Your mom posted in the community group asking if anyone has seen you. The comments are insane." I looked at the screen. Mom had posted a long, rambling message about her daughter who had moved out suddenly and cut off contact. She painted herself as a concerned parent, worried sick about her child who was too young and naive to survive on her own. The comments section was full of supportive messages, people offering to help search for me, others sharing their own stories of rebellious teenagers. But then I noticed other comments. People who knew our family, people who had witnessed the family drama over the years. "I've seen how you treat your daughters," one comment read. "Emma has always been responsible and mature. Maybe she had good reasons for leaving." Another. "Interesting that you're so worried now, but I remember you canceling her 18th birthday party 3 weeks ago. My daughter was invited and quite disappointed." And another. "Emma has been working at the bookstore for 2 years. She's always been polite, hardworking, and independent. I'm sure she's fine." The narrative Mom tried to create was unraveling in real time, exposed by community members who had watched our family dynamics play out at school events, church gatherings, and local businesses. The golden child favoritism that seemed normal inside our house looked very different to outsiders. "Should I be worried about this?" I asked Jasmine. "No," she said firmly. "You're an adult. You're supporting yourself. You haven't done anything wrong. Your mom is just realizing that her version of events doesn't hold up to public scrutiny." She was right. Over the next few days, I heard through mutual friends that my parents were facing questions from neighbors and acquaintances. People who had always admired their seemingly perfect family were now seeing cracks in the facade. Madison's spoiled behavior, which had been excused for years as sensitivity or stress, was being recognized for what it really was. The canceled birthday party, which my parents had framed as a minor postponement, was understood as the final insult that drove me away. My father's reduced hours at work became public knowledge when he was forced to explain why he could not afford basic utilities. The carefully maintained image of financial stability crumbled. People started asking questions. If they were struggling financially, why was Madison still getting expensive dinners and new clothes? Why had they spent money on her wants instead of their needs? The answers, of course, revealed years of financial mismanagement and misplaced priorities. Madison's comfort had always come first, even when it meant sacrificing practical necessities, and I had been quietly covering the gaps, making their dysfunction sustainable without them even realizing it. One evening in my 4th week of independence, I was restocking shelves at the bookstore when Mrs. Patterson called me to her office. "Emma, I wanted to give you a heads up," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "Your mother came by earlier today when you weren't here. She asked me to convince you to come home." My stomach clenched. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that you're an adult employee who is excelling in your position and that your personal life is none of my business," Mrs. Patterson said. "I also told her that if she continues to harass my staff at their workplace, I'll be forced to ban her from the store." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. You're a good kid, Emma," Mrs. Patterson continued. "I mean that. In the 2 years you've worked here, you've never been late, never called in sick unless absolutely necessary, and you treat every customer with respect. Whatever family drama pushed you out of your parents' house, I'm confident you made the right decision. You're going to be just fine." Those words carried me through the next difficult weeks, because despite my growing independence and happiness, part of me still struggled with guilt. I had been raised to believe that family came first, that Madison's needs were more important than mine, that sacrifice and flexibility were virtues. Unlearning those patterns was harder than I expected. My high school graduation was approaching, scheduled for the 2nd week of June. I had not told my parents about it, had not invited them, had not even mentioned it in the brief impersonal text messages I occasionally sent to confirm I was still alive. Jasmine's family had offered to attend in their place, and I had accepted gratefully. But the morning of graduation, I woke to find an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a card with a check for $500 and a note from my mother. "Emma, we know we've made mistakes. We should have celebrated your birthday party. We should have acknowledged your contributions to our household. We should have treated you with the same care and attention we gave Madison. We're sorry. Please let us be there for your graduation. We want to see you succeed. We love you, Mom and Dad." I stared at the check, my emotions churning. $500, about the same amount I had contributed to their household in a single month. Was this supposed to be restitution? An apology? A bribe? I put the check and card in my desk drawer without cashing it. I did not respond to the note, and I did not tell my parents about the graduation ceremony location or time. Some boundaries, once established, needed to stay firm. They had made their choices. Now I was making mine. Graduation day arrived warm and sunny, perfect weather for an outdoor ceremony. I sat among my classmates in the football stadium, wearing my blue cap and gown, feeling strangely disconnected from the celebration around me. Other students were surrounded by parents, grandparents, siblings, and extended family. I had Jasmine, Maya, and Jasmine's parents, who treated me with a kindness that made my throat tight with emotion. When they called my name and I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, I heard Jasmine's family cheering loudly. I smiled and waved, genuine happiness breaking through the lingering sadness. I had done this on my own, despite everything. I had finished high school while working 30 hours a week, while living independently, while navigating the family drama that had defined my childhood. I had graduated, and I was free. But as I returned to my seat, I noticed two figures standing at the edge of the stadium, my mother and father, watching from a distance. They had found out somehow, probably through the school website or mutual friends. They had come despite not being invited, unable to respect the boundaries I had set. Our eyes met across the field. Mom raised her hand in a tentative wave. Dad just stared, his expression unreadable. I looked away without acknowledging them and focused on the rest of the ceremony. They had lost the right to share in my achievements. They could watch from the sidelines if they wanted, but they would not be part of my celebration. Not today. Maybe not ever. After the ceremony ended, Jasmine's family took me out to dinner at my favorite restaurant. They asked about my plans for the future, my hopes for college, my dreams for my career. They listened to my answers with genuine interest, offering support and encouragement without judgment or conditions. This, I realized, was what family should feel like. Chosen family, built on mutual respect and care, not obligation and resentment. That night, back in my apartment, I found another envelope under my door. This time the handwriting was Madison's. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won out. Emma, it read, Mom and Dad are making me write this, but I guess I should anyway. Things have been really hard since you left. They fight about money constantly. Dad picked up a second job and is never home. Mom cries a lot. Everyone blames me because you left after my thing about the birthday party, but that's not fair because you overreacted. Anyway, I'm supposed to apologize for whatever I did that upset you, so sorry, I guess. Can you please just come home so things can go back to normal? Madison. I read it twice, noting every resentful word, every failure to take genuine responsibility. This was not an apology. This was Madison being forced to write something she did not mean, still viewing herself as the victim of my choices. The spoiled sister had learned nothing, grown not at all. I crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. Then I sat down at my small kitchen table and began researching community college programs. I had decided to pursue a degree in library science, inspired by my time working at the bookstore and my love of helping people find the stories they needed. It would take time, and money would be tight, but it was my path, my choice, my future. The golden child could keep her throne. I was building something better. Summer passed in a rhythm of work and self-discovery. I picked up additional hours at the bookstore, sometimes working 45 hours a week when Mrs. Patterson needed extra coverage. The money helped build my savings account back up after the initial expenses of moving out. By August, I had accumulated nearly $2,000 in emergency funds, a safety net that made me feel more secure in my independence. I had not heard from my family in 6 weeks when the phone call came. It was a Tuesday evening in late August, and I was making dinner in my small kitchen when an unknown number appeared on my screen. Something made me answer. Emma? It was my father's voice, but strained in a way I had never heard before. I'm at County General Hospital. Your mother had a heart attack this afternoon. She's in surgery now. The world seemed to tilt. Whatever anger and resentment I carried, the news still hit me like a physical blow. Is she going to be okay? They don't know yet, Dad said, his voice breaking. Emma, please. I know you're angry with us, and you have every right to be, but please come. She's been asking for you. I stood frozen in my kitchen, my dinner forgotten on the stove. This was the moment I had dreaded since leaving, the crisis that would test whether my boundaries could withstand real emergency. Part of me wanted to rush to the hospital immediately. Another part remembered all the times my needs had been dismissed, my feelings invalidated, my 18th birthday party canceled without a second thought. I'll come, I finally said. But Dad, I need you to understand something. I'm coming because Mom is in the hospital, not because I forgive what happened, not because I'm ready to come back. This doesn't change anything between us. I understand, he said quietly. Just please come. The drive to County General took 20 minutes. I called Jasmine on the way, needing her voice to steady my shaking hands. You don't have to go if you're not ready, she said gently. Your mother having a medical emergency doesn't erase what they did to you. I know, I replied, but I need to make sure she's okay. I can't live with myself if I stay away and something happens. That's because you're a good person, Jasmine said. Better than they deserve. But Emma, please be careful. Don't let them manipulate you into coming back just because of this. I promised I would be cautious, then hung up as I pulled into the hospital parking lot. My stomach churned with anxiety as I walked through the automatic doors and toward the surgical waiting area. I had not seen my parents in nearly 3 months. I had no idea what to expect. Dad sat alone in a corner of the waiting room, looking older than I remembered. His hair had more gray, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion and worry. When he saw me, relief flooded his face. Emma, he said, standing quickly. Thank you for coming. Where's Madison? I asked, deliberately keeping my tone neutral. She's with friends, Dad said, not meeting my eyes. She couldn't handle being here. Hospitals make her anxious. Of course, Madison could not handle the stress of her own mother's medical emergency, so she had gone to be comforted by friends while Dad waited alone. The pattern of enabling her emotional fragility continued even in crisis. How long has she been in surgery? I asked, sitting down in a chair 2 seats away from him. About 3 hours, Dad replied. The doctor said it was a significant blockage. They're doing an emergency bypass. We sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. Finally, Dad spoke again. Emma, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I need you to understand understand what's been happening since you left. We've been struggling, financially and emotionally. Without your contributions, we couldn't keep up with the bills. I had to take a second job at a warehouse, working nights. The stress has been affecting your mother's health for weeks, and we didn't take it seriously enough. I looked at him sharply. Are you blaming me for Mom's heart attack? No, he said quickly. That's not what I meant. I'm saying we didn't realize how much we were relying on you, how much pressure we put on you, how unfairly we treated you compared to Madison. Your mother's been talking about it constantly since you left, how we failed you as parents. The guilt has been eating at her. Guilt didn't stop you from canceling my birthday party, I said quietly. Guilt didn't make you acknowledge my contributions or treat me with the same care you gave Madison. Dad's face crumpled. You're right, we were terrible parents to you. We let Madison's emotional needs overshadow yours. We took you for granted because you were responsible and didn't demand attention the way she did. We convinced ourselves that you were fine, that you didn't need as much from us. We were wrong, Emma. So completely wrong. A nurse approached before I could respond, calling Dad's name. We both stood, tension radiating through the waiting room. Mr. Richardson, your wife is out of surgery. The procedure went well. She's being moved to recovery now. You can see her in about 30 minutes. Relief washed over both of us. Dad actually stumbled, reaching out to steady himself against the chair. I caught his arm automatically. Years of being the responsible daughter overriding my anger. She's okay, Dad whispered, tears streaming down his face. Thank God. Those 30 minutes passed in continued silence. Dad made phone calls to relatives, updating them on Mom's condition. I texted Jasmine and Maya, letting them know the surgery had been successful. Neither of us addressed the elephant in the room, the family drama that had led to this fractured relationship. When the nurse finally came to take us to recovery, I followed Dad through the sterile hospital corridors. Mom looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, connected to various monitors and IVs. Her eyes were closed, her face pale. When we entered, her eyes fluttered open. Emma, she whispered, her voice hoarse from the breathing tube. You came. I came, I confirmed, staying near the door while Dad moved to her bedside. I'm so sorry, Mom said, tears sliding down her cheeks. For everything. For how we treated you. For canceling your birthday party. For taking your money without acknowledgement. For always putting Madison first. I'm so sorry, baby. I felt my own tears starting but blinked them back. Mom, you just had major surgery. This isn't the time. Yes, it is, she insisted weakly. Because I almost died today, Emma. When I woke up in the ambulance, all I could think about was how I might never get to tell you how sorry I am. How I might never get to make things right. Making things right takes more than an apology, I said, my voice shaking. It takes actually changing. It takes treating both your daughters fairly. It takes not enabling Madison's behavior at my expense. I know, Mom whispered, and I want to do that. We both do. But Emma, I need you to know something. The stress that led to this heart attack, it wasn't just financial. It was guilt. Every day since you left, I've replayed every moment we failed you. Every birthday we diminished. Every achievement we barely acknowledged. Every time we asked you to be understanding while we catered to Madison's demands. The weight of it has been crushing me. Dad spoke up from beside her bed. We've been in family therapy since July. Madison refused to go at first, but we finally made her attend. The therapist has been helping us understand how dysfunctional our family dynamics became. How we created a golden child and a scapegoat without even realizing it. I absorbed this information, surprised they had actually sought professional help. What does Madison say about all this? Dad and Mom exchanged a glance. She's resistant, Dad admitted. She doesn't see how her behavior affected you. She thinks you left because you were being dramatic and selfish. The therapist is working with her on empathy and taking responsibility, but it's slow progress. Of course it is, I said bitterly. She's been enabled her entire life. Why would she suddenly understand that actions have consequences? Mom reached out a shaking hand toward me. Emma, I don't expect you to forgive us right now. I don't expect you to come home or resume our relationship as if nothing happened. But please, please don't disappear from our lives completely. Give us a chance to prove we can change. Give us a chance to be better parents. I looked at her hand, extended in supplication, and felt the familiar pull of obligation. The old Emma would have taken that hand immediately, would have promised to come back, would have sacrificed her own needs once again for family harmony. But I was not that Emma anymore. I'll think about it, I said carefully. But I need you both to understand that trust is earned, not given. You destroyed my trust when you canceled my 18th birthday party for Madison's convenience. You continued to destroy it every time you prioritized her feelings over mine. Rebuilding that trust will take time, effort, and consistent changed behavior. I'm not going to let you back into my life just because Mom had a medical emergency. That's fair, Dad said quietly. That's more than fair. A commotion in the hallway interrupted us. Madison's voice carried through the door, high-pitched and demanding. I don't care about visiting hours. That's my mother in there. The door burst open and Madison stormed in, her eyes red from crying, her makeup smudged. She stopped short when she saw me. What are you doing here? She asked accusingly. Madison, Mom said weakly. Please don't start. Don't start what? Madison demanded. She abandons the family for months, doesn't answer calls or texts, and now suddenly shows up because you're in the hospital. That's so typical. Always trying to be the hero. Something in me snapped. The anger I had been carefully controlling since arriving at the hospital broke free. I abandoned the family? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. I was supporting the family. $400 every single month to keep the lights on and food on the table. I was contributing more to this household than you ever did, Madison. And my reward for that sacrifice was having my 18th birthday party canceled because you threw a tantrum. That's not fair, Madison protested. I was going through a hard time. You're always going through a hard time, I shot back. Because you've never had to face real consequences or take responsibility for your actions. Mom and Dad have spent your entire life protecting you from anything uncomfortable, and it's turned you into someone who can't function unless everything revolves around your feelings. That's not true, Madison said, but her voice wavered. It is true, Mom said from her hospital bed, surprising everyone. Emma's right, Madison. We've done you a disservice by enabling your behavior. The therapist has been trying to tell us this for weeks, but I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to admit that our parenting choices hurt both of you, just in different ways. Madison stared at Mom, shocked. You're taking her side. There are no sides, Dad interjected. There's just the truth, and the truth is that we failed both of you. We failed Emma by taking her for granted and prioritizing your needs above hers. We failed you by never teaching you to consider other people's feelings or face the consequences of your choices. This is insane, Madison said, tears streaming down her face. I can't believe you're attacking me while Mom is lying in a hospital bed. No one's attacking you, I said, my anger cooling into something closer to pity. We're just finally telling you the truth. You're not the victim here, Madison. You never were. You're the golden child who got everything she wanted while I quietly held this family together. And when I finally decided to prioritize myself for once, you called me selfish. Madison opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She looked around the room at Mom's pale face, Dad's exhausted expression, my calm resolve. For perhaps the first time in her life, she was facing a situation where her tears and tantrums would not work, where she would not be protected and coddled and told everything was okay. I need some air, she finally said, turning and fleeing the room. The silence she left behind felt heavy with unspoken truths, and years of dysfunction finally brought into the light. Mom was crying quietly. Dad looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes, and I felt oddly detached from it all, as if I were watching someone else's family drama unfold. Emma, Mom said softly, what can we do? How can we make this right? I thought about her question carefully. You can start by continuing therapy. All of you, including Madison. You can acknowledge that this family's problems are not going to be fixed overnight. You can accept that I've built a life outside this family, and I'm not giving it up. You can understand that any relationship we have going forward will be on my terms, with boundaries I set and enforce. And will there be a relationship? Dad asked, his voice small. Or have we lost you completely? I looked at both of them, these flawed people who had hurt me so deeply, while believing they were doing their best. I don't know yet, I admitted. That depends on whether you actually change, or whether this is just temporary guilt that will fade once Mom recovers and life goes back to normal. It won't, Mom promised. I swear to you, Emma, things are going to be different. We'll see, I said, because I've heard promises before. What I need now is action. I stayed at the hospital for another hour, long enough to ensure Mom was stable and comfortable. Then I said goodbye and walked out into the warm August night, leaving my parents to contemplate the wreckage of their family dynamics and the long road ahead if they truly wanted to rebuild. As I drove home to my small studio apartment, I felt neither satisfaction nor regret, just a strange sort of peace that came from finally speaking my truth, from setting boundaries, from refusing to sacrifice myself on the altar of family harmony. Whatever happened next, I had stood my ground. I had valued myself. I had refused to be the family's emotional and financial backstop while receiving nothing but dismissal in return. The spoiled sister's kingdom was crumbling, and I had no intention of helping rebuild it. Mom's recovery took 6 weeks. During that time, I visited the hospital exactly 3 times, each visit brief and carefully bounded. I refused Dad's request to stay for family dinners or help out at the house. I maintained my independence, my job, my small apartment, and my emotional distance. The guilt they tried to invoke no longer worked on me. I had learned that setting boundaries was not cruelty, it was survival. Madison attended exactly one of those hospital visits, arriving late and leaving early, complaining about how depressing hospitals were. She still had not apologized genuinely for her role in the family drama. She still viewed herself as the wronged party, inconvenienced by my absence and everyone's focus on repairing our broken family dynamics. In September, I started classes at community college. 2 courses to begin with, Introduction to Library Science and English Composition, both evening classes that fit around my work schedule. The campus was small but welcoming, filled with other students juggling jobs and education, people who understood what it meant to build a future through determination rather than privilege. I made new friends, people who knew nothing about my family history or the spoiled sister I had left behind. To them, I was just Emma, the girl who worked at the bookstore and loved recommending novels. I was not the responsible daughter or the financial supporter or the scapegoat. I was simply myself, and that freedom was intoxicating. October brought a phone call that changed everything. It was Mrs. Patterson from the bookstore. Emma, I need to talk to you about something, she said, her voice serious. Can you come to my office tomorrow before your shift? Anxiety immediately gripped me. Is something wrong? Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that, she assured me. It's actually good news, I think, but we should discuss it in person. The next day, I arrived at her office 30 minutes early, my stomach churning with nervous anticipation. Mrs. Patterson gestured for me to sit and then slid a folder across her desk. I'm retiring, she said simply. At the end of the year. I'm 68 years old and it's time, but I don't want to leave this store to just anyone. I want to leave it to someone who loves books, who understands customers, who has proven themselves dedicated and responsible. I stared at her, not quite processing what she was suggesting. I want to offer you the position of store manager, Mrs. Patterson continued. It comes with a significant pay increase, full benefits including health insurance, and a percentage of the store's profits. You'd need to go full-time, 40 hours a week, which means you might need to adjust your college schedule. But Emma, you're ready for this. You've been ready for months. I'm 19 years old, I said weakly. I've only worked here for 2 years. And in those 2 years, you've shown more dedication and intelligence than employees twice your age, Mrs. Patterson replied. You know the inventory better than anyone. Customers ask for you by name. You've created displays that increase sales by 15%. You've handled difficult situations with grace and professionalism. Age is just a number, Emma. Competence is what matters. I felt tears prickling my eyes. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Mrs. Patterson said with a gentle smile. Say yes and take this opportunity to build something meaningful. You've been surviving, Emma. I'm offering you a chance to thrive. I said yes. The promotion came with a salary of $42,000 per year, more money than I had ever imagined making at 19. With benefits and profit sharing, it was enough to cover my rent, my bills, my tuition, and still have savings left over. It was security. It was opportunity. It was proof that leaving my family had been the right choice. When I told Jasmine and Maya, they insisted on celebrating. We went to a nice restaurant, the kind of place I would have considered too expensive just months ago, and toasted to my success. For the first time since my canceled 18th birthday party, I felt genuinely celebrated, not as someone's sister or daughter, but as myself. You did this on your own, Jasmine said, raising her glass. No family money, no connections, no safety net, just you and your hard work. I'm so proud of you, Emma. Those words meant more than she could know. I had spent my entire life seeking acknowledgement from parents who saved their pride and praise for my spoiled sister. Now I had found validation in my own achievements, surrounded by people who actually cared. I did not tell my parents about the promotion immediately. I was not ready to share my successes with people who had dismissed them for so long, but word traveled fast in our small community. 3 days after accepting the position, Dad called. Emma, he said, his voice warm with something I had rarely heard directed at me, genuine pride. I heard about your promotion at the bookstore. That's incredible. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, I said carefully, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Your mother wants to take you to dinner to celebrate, Dad continued. Nothing big, just the 3 of us. She's doing much better now, and she really wants to see you, to acknowledge this achievement properly. I hesitated. My initial instinct was to refuse, to maintain the boundaries I had worked so hard to establish. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being a daughter who craved her parents' approval, wavered. Just the 3 of us? I asked. Not Madison? Madison has plans that night anyway, Dad said, then paused. But Emma, even if she were available, this would still be just about you. We've been learning in therapy about how we always made everything about Madison. This is your accomplishment, your celebration. Against my better judgment, I agreed to dinner the following Saturday. I told myself I could handle a few hours with my parents. I told myself I was strong enough not to be manipulated back into old patterns. I told myself this was about them acknowledging my success, nothing more. Saturday arrived, and I drove to the restaurant they had chosen, a nice Italian place I had always loved. Mom and Dad were already there, seated at a booth in the corner. Mom looked healthier than she had at the hospital, color back in her cheeks, though she moved more slowly now. Emma, she said, standing to hug me. I let her, though my body remained stiff. You look wonderful. We sat down and ordered food, the conversation flowing more easily than I expected. They asked about my classes, my new managerial responsibilities, my apartment. They listened to my answers with what appeared to be genuine interest, not interrupting or redirecting the conversation back to Madison. Midway through dinner, Dad cleared his throat. Emma, your mother and I have been doing a lot of thinking about what happened, about how we failed you. We wanted you to know that we're taking concrete steps to change. We've been in therapy every week, Mom added. Individual sessions and family sessions. Madison comes too, though she's still resistant. The therapist has helped us understand how our parenting created an unhealthy dynamic. That's good, I said neutrally. Change takes time and effort. We also wanted to give you this, Dad said, sliding an envelope across the table. It's not enough, not even close, but it's a start. I opened the envelope and found a check for $2,400, exactly 6 months of the $400 I had contributed to their household. We can't repay you for the emotional damage we caused, Mom said softly, but we can at least repay the money you gave us, money we took without appreciation or acknowledgement. I stared at the check, my emotions warring between gratitude and anger. You don't have to do this. Yes, we do, Dad said firmly. You supported this family when we were struggling, and we treated you like you were disposable. That was wrong. We want to make it right, even if it takes years. What about Madison? I asked. Has she acknowledged her part in any of this? Mom and Dad exchanged uncomfortable glances. She's struggling with the therapy, Mom admitted. She doesn't want to see herself as the problem. She still thinks you left because you were being dramatic about a postponed birthday party. It wasn't just about the birthday party, I said, feeling the familiar frustration rising. It was about years of being treated as less important, years of my needs being dismissed while hers were prioritized. The birthday party was just the final insult. We know that now, Dad said. We're trying to help Madison understand it too, but she's been enabled for so long long that breaking through her denial is difficult. We finished dinner with more talk about my future plans, my goals for the bookstore, my hope to eventually transfer to a 4-year university. My parents listened and encouraged, playing the role of supportive parents they had rarely filled when I lived under their roof. As we were leaving, Mom pulled me aside. "Emma, I know we have a long way to go to earn your trust back, but I want you to know that having you walk out of our lives was the wake-up call we needed. We were so caught up in managing Madison's emotions that we forgot to consider yours. That was our failure, not yours. You didn't abandon us. We abandoned you first, long before you moved out." Those words, so clearly the product of therapeutic insight, should have felt satisfying. Instead, they just made me sad. Sad for all the years we had lost to dysfunction. Sad for the relationship we might have had if they had treated both daughters equally. Sad for the girl I had been, desperately seeking approval from parents who had none to give. "I appreciate you saying that," I told Mom, "but acknowledgement is just the first step. Sustained change is what matters." "We understand," she said, "and we're committed to it, for however long it takes." I drove home that night with the check in my purse and a strange mixture of hope and skepticism in my heart. My parents seemed genuinely changed, but I had learned not to trust words without seeing consistent action. Time would tell if their therapy-induced insights translated into real behavioral changes. November brought my 20th birthday. Unlike my 18th, which had been canceled for Madison's convenience, this birthday was quiet and entirely on my own terms. Jasmine and Maya threw me a small party at their apartment. Mrs. Patterson gave me a bonus at work. My college professors, whom I had mentioned my upcoming birthday to in passing, surprised me with a card signed by my entire English class. My parents called to wish me happy birthday, both of them on speakerphone, their voices warm and apologetic. "We know we can't make up for your 18th, Mom said, but we want you to know we're thinking of you today. We're proud of the woman you've become, Emma. Proud of your strength and independence." "Thank you," I said, meaning it this time. "Can we take you to dinner next week?" Dad asked. "To celebrate properly? Just the 3 of us?" I confirmed. "Just the 3 of us," he promised. Madison did not call. She did not text. She did not acknowledge my birthday in any way. The spoiled sister was still too caught up in her own world to consider anyone else's milestones. But surprisingly, her silence did not hurt as much as I expected. I had stopped needing her acknowledgement, stopped waiting for her to suddenly develop empathy or consideration. The dinner with my parents the following week was pleasant, a marked improvement from the tense meals of my childhood. They asked about my life, listened to my stories, and refrained from talking about Madison except when I asked directly. She was still living at home, still struggling with accepting responsibility, still resisting the changes the family therapist was trying to implement. "Give her time," Mom said when I expressed frustration at Madison's continued immaturity. "She's having to unlearn 20 years of being enabled. That's not going to happen overnight." "I know," I replied, "but it's not my job to wait for her to grow up. I'm building my own life, and whether she's part of it is up to her." December arrived with snow and a sense of approaching closure. My first semester at community college ended with 2 A grades. My position as bookstore manager was going well, with sales up 12% under my management. My apartment felt like home now, filled with secondhand furniture I had carefully chosen and books I had collected. I had built a life I was proud of, independent and stable and mine. On Christmas Eve, my parents invited me to their house for dinner. Madison would be there, they warned me, but they promised to maintain boundaries and not allow the evening to revolve around her needs. I agreed to come, cautiously hopeful that enough had changed to make the gathering bearable. When I arrived, the house looked different. The photos on the mantle, which had once been predominantly Madison, now included several of me. My high school graduation photo, a picture from when I was 14 and won a regional writing contest, a recent photo from my 20th birthday party that Jasmine had posted on social media. "We realized we had erased you from the family narrative," Mom explained when she saw me looking. "We're trying to correct that." Madison was in the living room, looking uncomfortable. She had gained weight, her face puffy with the stress of finally having to face consequences. When she saw me, she stood awkwardly. "Hi, Emma," she said, her voice smaller than I remembered. "Madison," I replied neutrally. Dinner was tense, but not hostile. Dad and Mom made efforts to include both of us in conversations, asking about Madison's job search and my bookstore management with equal interest. Madison remained mostly quiet, answering questions but not volunteering much information. After dinner, as Mom and Dad cleared dishes, Madison finally spoke to me directly. "I've been thinking about what everyone said," she began hesitantly, "about how I acted, about the birthday party, about all of it." I waited, not making it easy for her. "I didn't understand why you left," she continued. "I thought you were overreacting, but the therapist has been making me write down every time I remember you doing something for the family that went unacknowledged. The list is really long, Emma, like pages long." "Yes," I said simply, "it is." "I'm not good at apologies," Madison said, tears starting. "I'm not good at admitting when I'm wrong, but I'm trying to learn. And I want you to know that I'm sorry for being so selfish, for not seeing how much you sacrificed, for thinking my feelings were the only ones that mattered." It was not a perfect apology. It was clumsy and self-focused, still making excuses even while trying to take responsibility. But it was more than Madison had ever offered before, and I recognized the effort it must have taken for someone so unused to being wrong. "Thank you for saying that," I replied. "I hope you continue working on yourself, not for me, but for you, because the person you were being wasn't good for anyone, including yourself." Madison nodded, wiping her her eyes. Are we going to be okay? Like, as sisters? I considered the question carefully. I don't know yet. That depends on whether you actually change, or whether this is just temporary guilt. I'm not coming back to being your emotional punching bag, Madison. If we're going to have a relationship, it has to be between equals who respect each other. I understand, she said quietly. The rest of the evening passed without drama. We exchanged small gifts, nothing extravagant. Mom and Dad gave me a framed photo of the two of us from when I was 5, and they were young and hopeful. We want to remember who we were before we lost our way, Mom explained. As I drove home that night through the snowy streets, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps the beginning of letting go. My family was deeply flawed, had hurt me profoundly, had failed me in ways that would take years to fully process. But they were also trying to change, taking steps toward becoming better people. Whether those steps would lead to reconciliation or just to mutual understanding remained to be seen. But for the first time since I moved out, I felt like maybe, eventually, we could find some kind of peace. Not the false harmony of sweeping problems under the rug, but the harder, more honest peace of acknowledging damage and working to repair it. The golden child was learning to walk without her throne, and I was learning that I did not need their approval to know my own worth. 2 years passed before I fully understood what freedom looked like. At 21, I was assistant manager of a successful bookstore, enrolled full-time at community college with a 3.8 GPA, and living in a one-bedroom apartment I could comfortably afford. I had built a life entirely on my own terms, without the weight of family drama or the burden of supporting people who took me for granted. My relationship with my parents evolved into something cautious but functional. We had dinner once a month, always at neutral locations, always with clear time limits. They respected my boundaries without complaint. They asked about my life without trying to insert themselves into it. They acknowledged my achievements without trying to claim credit. It was not the warm, loving relationship I once dreamed of, but it was honest, and that mattered more. Madison's transformation was slower and less complete. She had moved out of my parents' house 6 months after my 20th birthday, getting her own apartment and a job as a receptionist at a dental office. The therapy continued, though she complained about it constantly. She was learning, in painful increments, that the world did not revolve around her feelings, and that consequences followed actions. We were not close. We probably never would be. But we had achieved something resembling civility, the occasional text message, the polite conversation at family gatherings, the acknowledgement that we shared DNA even if we did not share much else. In March of my 21st year, Mrs. Patterson officially retired. The bookstore was now entirely my responsibility. She had sold me her ownership stake for a price so reasonable it was practically a gift, financed through a loan I would spend the next 10 years paying off. But the store was mine, my name on the lease, my vision guiding its future. I renamed it Second Chapter Books, a nod to both the literary theme and my own life story. The community responded enthusiastically. Sales increased. I hired 3 part-time employees, all of them students like I had been, all of them working their way through college with determination and hope. I paid them well, better than I had been paid, because I remembered what it felt like to count every dollar. My parents came to the grand reopening, along with Jasmine and Maya, several of my college professors, and what felt like half the neighborhood. Mom cried when she saw my name on the door. Dad kept taking pictures and showing them to everyone. For once, their pride felt genuine rather than performative. Madison came too, arriving late and leaving early, but she came. She even brought a card with $50 inside and a note that read, "Congratulations on building something amazing. I'm still learning what hard work looks like, but watching you has been a good teacher." That spring, I received my acceptance letter to State University's library science program. I would start in the fall, taking evening classes while running the bookstore during the day. It would be grueling, but I had become fluent in juggling responsibilities. The spoiled sister's tantrum over my canceled birthday party had inadvertently forced me to develop resilience I never knew I possessed. On the anniversary of my 18th birthday, 3 years after the party that never happened, I threw myself a celebration. Not a huge event, just 20 people in the back room of my bookstore, with cake and champagne and laughter. Jasmine gave a toast about friendship and chosen family. Maya talked about watching me transform from a scared teenager to a confident young woman. My parents sat quietly in the corner, witnessing the life I had built without them. At the end of the night, as people were leaving, Mom approached me. "Emma, I know we've said this before, but I need to say it again. We're sorry for everything we put you through, for making you feel less important than Madison, for canceling your 18th birthday party, for all of it." "I know you are," I said, "and I've forgiven you mostly, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. What happened shaped who I became, and honestly, I like who I became. I'm proud of the life I built. I'm grateful for the strength I discovered. I wouldn't trade my independence for anything." "We're proud of you too," Dad said, joining the conversation. "Prouder than we've ever been. Not because you've succeeded, though that's wonderful, but because you had the courage to leave when staying would have destroyed you. You saved yourself, Emma. That takes more strength than we ever gave you credit for." Those words settled something in me, a final piece of healing clicking into place. They understood now. They saw what their favoritism and enabling had done. They recognized the cost of their choices. That understanding could not undo the past, but it could inform the future. Madison left therapy after 18 months, declaring herself fixed, despite her therapist's recommendation to continue. She still struggled with empathy and taking responsibility. She still viewed herself as the victim of circumstance. circumstances, rather than the architect of many of her own problems. But she had improved enough to hold down a job, pay her own rent, and occasionally acknowledge other people's needs. We would never be close sisters, the kind who called each other daily or shared secrets or spent holidays together by choice. Too much damage had been done, too many years of imbalance and resentment, but we had achieved peaceful coexistence, and sometimes that was enough. By my 22nd birthday, second chapter books had become a community fixture. We hosted reading groups, writing workshops, and book signings. Local authors sought us out for launches. Teachers brought their students for field trips. I had created not just a business, but a gathering place, somewhere people came to discover stories and themselves. My parents were regular customers now, stopping by every few weeks to browse and chat. They bought books for each other and for Madison, trying in small ways to cultivate interests beyond their own drama. They had downsized to a smaller house after Dad took early retirement, living within their means for the first time in years. The financial stress that had contributed to Mom's heart attack was gone, replaced by a simpler, more sustainable lifestyle. Madison started dating someone, a teacher named Ryan, who did not tolerate her self-centered behavior. I met him at a family dinner and immediately liked him. He called out her bullshit gently but firmly, refusing to enable the patterns our parents had spent 20 years reinforcing. She complained about his controlling behavior, but I noticed she was changing under his influence, slowly becoming more considerate and aware. In December, 5 days before Christmas, Madison showed up at my bookstore unannounced. I was reorganizing the mystery section when she walked in, looking nervous. "Emma, do you have a minute?" she asked. "Sure," I said, setting down my stack of books. "What's up?" She pulled a small wrapped box from her purse. "I wanted to give you this. It's not much, but I saw it and thought of you." I unwrapped the gift carefully. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small book charm. It was thoughtful and personal. The first gift Madison had ever given me that felt like she had actually considered what I might like. "I know I can't make up for your 18th birthday party," she said quietly, "or for all the years I was a terrible sister, but I'm trying to be better. Ryan's been helping me understand how selfish I've been, and I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see how much you sacrificed for this family, how much we took from you. I'm sorry, Emma. Really, genuinely sorry." I looked at my sister, this woman who had been the source of so much of my childhood pain, and saw something different. Not redemption exactly. Madison would always be fundamentally self-focused, but growth, effort, the beginning of awareness. "Thank you," I said, putting on the necklace. "This means a lot. I don't expect us to be best friends," Madison continued. "I know I hurt you too much for that, but maybe we could be actual sisters, the kind who check in on each other sometimes and don't just show up for obligatory holidays." "I'd like that," I said, surprised to realize I meant it. We went to coffee after I closed the store, talking for 2 hours about her relationship with Ryan, my plans for graduate school, Mom and Dad's recent trip to visit relatives. It was the longest conversation we had ever had as equals, without resentment or comparison or the weight of our family's dysfunction. When we parted ways that night, Madison hugged me. "I'm glad you left," she said, "not because I wanted you gone, but because you needed to, and because it forced all of us to finally see what we were doing to each other. You saved yourself, and probably saved me too." That Christmas was the first one that felt genuinely warm in years. We gathered at my parents' smaller house, the 6 of us including Ryan, and it felt like a real family. Not perfect, certainly not without scars, but functional, healthy even. As I drove home that night, the book charm necklace from Madison warm against my skin, I thought about my 18th birthday party, the one that was canceled, the one that triggered my departure from a toxic family dynamic, the one that paradoxically led to everything good in my current life. If that party had happened as planned, I might still be living at home, still sacrificing my own needs, still funding a household that took me for granted. I might never have discovered my own strength or built a business I loved or learned what healthy boundaries looked like. I might never have forced my family to confront their dysfunction and choose to change. Madison's spoiled tantrum had been the catalyst for my liberation. My parents' choice to cancel my birthday party had been the final push I needed to claim my own life. Their betrayal had been the foundation for my independence. I would not thank them for it. They had still hurt me deeply, still failed me as parents and sister. But I could acknowledge the strange truth that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes you have to lose everything familiar to discover what you are truly capable of becoming. The golden child had learned to stand without her throne. The scapegoat had learned she did not need anyone's approval to know her worth. And slowly, painfully, impossibly, we had all learned what it meant to be a real family. Not the performance we had maintained for years, where Madison's needs eclipsed everyone else's, and I quietly kept everything running. But something messier and more honest, where everyone took responsibility for their own choices and consequences followed actions. I was 22 years old, a successful business owner, a college student on track to graduate with honors, and finally, after years of struggle, at peace with my own story. The birthday party that never happened had taught me the most important lesson of all, that sometimes walking away is not abandonment, it is self-preservation. And sometimes the people who hurt you can change, not enough to undo the damage, but enough to stop causing more. I parked in front of my apartment building, looking up at my lit window on the 3rd floor, my home, my space, my life, built from nothing but determination and the refusal to accept being treated as less than I deserved. The spoiled sister's tantrum had cost my parents their convenient scapegoat and their financial cushion. It had cost them years of false family harmony, but it had given me something far more valuable, myself. And that was worth every difficult moment, every tear, every night spent questioning if I was doing the right thing. I had done the right thing. I had saved myself. And in doing so, I had given my family the chance to save themselves too. Some of them took it. Some of them were still trying. And I had learned that their choices were theirs to make, just as mine were mine to make. I walked up to my apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped into my hard-won freedom. Tomorrow I would open my bookstore, attend my classes, and continue building the life I had chosen. But tonight, I would simply be grateful for the journey that had brought me here. The birthday party that was canceled had given me the greatest gift of all, the courage to claim my own story. And that story was just beginning. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? Or watched a sibling's behavior tear your family apart? Share your experience in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself. Thanks for watching.